Well, hey, my name is Jason Dukes, and I am very happy to be with you guys today. Thank you, McCole, for allowing Rizzle and me to hang out with you guys some. And I don't know if he's going to be joining us today or not, but want to give a shout out to him, obviously, for connecting us. And I am excited about what vertical crypto art is up to and these residencies and it's a passion of mine. It's something that the company that we started, we are looking to launch a DAO that will be like an educational endowment, to play on words, that seeks to help a next generation of leaders to really create a fine art and fintech future together, and what that can mean. And so I'll tell you a little bit real quickly about me, and then I'll dive into some content um, and ask some questions. And I'm guessing, Nicole, you tell me, but I'm guessing that we can interact together if people unmute, um, or at least we can interact together in the chat. So, which one typically do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if people can't speak in the sense that they can't unmute, they'll just text on the the text channel, and I'll just keep a lookout for that. And if people want to unmute and can speak, go for it, for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. Good stuff. So, real quickly about me, I grew up in urban New Orleans, or the inner city of New Orleans. Ended up getting married. Now we have 7 kids and a dog. So it's a lot of kids, never a dull moment around here, and we love it. And we live in the Nashville, Tennessee area. And I started a company. Over the years. I've been a strategic consultant and a leader in nonprofit and for-profit spaces, and started a company back in the spring called the Decent Co. And the purpose of the company, it's a company and a collective and a cause. The company helps with experiential NFT strategies for creators and for companies and for nonprofits. And then we have a collective of a pretty diverse group of leaders globally that are a small group, but a very active and determined group to see and encourage more of what you're doing, the types of things that you guys are doing, McCall, and I think it's one of the big reasons Rizdal connected us. And then the cause is that educational piece that I mentioned, and so we are hoping to see more and more of that. And if we can encourage it, or if we can help create it in places, because I think right now community building and leadership pipeline are the two big pieces that are missing in the majority of what's going on in DeFi and fintech. In other words, it's still pretty cumbersome to engage in the space, and the community piece is so beautiful of who we all are together. It's actually very meaningful and powerful. That's one of my favorite things about being a part of all of this, is the friendships and the way that we encourage and look out for each other. And so we want to keep spreading that, right? We want to see a more beautiful humanity. And at the same time, we recognize that the leadership pipeline has got to be developed, not in a formal necessarily way, although there will be some formal ways, but in ways that really give access, even to people who may not know that they have access or want to even look at this. Like here in America, there are 585,000 tech jobs right now, and I think a lot of young people have yet to realize the opportunities that's there. And so that's part of what we hope to do, especially in low opportunity zones or in areas that with cycles of poverty. You see Yield Guild doing this, Gabby Diesel and others with some of the efforts they have in Eurasia. And so it's a really neat opportunity and a neat time to be involved in this. And so I want to start with a question, if that's okay, and get some feedback from you guys to begin with. And it may seem like an unusual question with regard to what our topic is, right? Because the topic being crypto ecosystems and DeFi. But I'm curious, what would you guys say with regard to this statement? How would you respond to it? We have now entered the beginning of the second Renaissance. How might you respond to that? We have now entered the beginning of the second Renaissance. I'm curious what you guys would say.
Boria is saying agreed.
Good stuff. I see that. Right. And so if you agree, and then anyone else, obviously keep responding. I see somebody else typing as well. Um, I want to hear why you think so, right? Like what if there were markers of the first Renaissance, um, how do we see some of those same characteristics in what's going on right now? And maybe that's the question we need to step back and ask. What were some of the characteristics that marked the first Renaissance?
I'm not really so up to date with the Renaissance, but isn't one of the factors the cross-pollination of different disciplines? So like science is mixing with art, like someone like science is mixing with art and culture, and these things are cross-pollinating to actually develop things which weren't really imagined beforehand.
I agree. I mean, I think that's a huge characteristic of the first Renaissance, and I do see the same thing today, right? And tell me how to say your name, Michael. I want to get it right.
Yeah,
I would say Michael.
Michael's fine. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
as
Just spell it short because
no, it's great.
spelling's fun.
As you know, we Americans, I mean, we have our weird ways of how we pronounce stuff, and so I wanted to make sure I honor that and honor your name in that way. So if it's different than Michael, let me know. But I love what you're saying, and I do think that's one of the characteristics of the first Renaissance is the cross-disciplinary fashion of how, you know, the science, the art, all the engineering, the architecture, all the various elements. It wasn't just that someone was pigeonholed into what they had apprenticed in, which was more the case in the times prior to the Renaissance. It's that people became well-rounded. They began to leverage both analytics and creativity. They began to leverage those all of those together. So what else are you guys saying? Looking at the chat here, completely new tools, medium of expression that haven't existed before, right? I agree. I agree there, and um, definitely entering a new masters arising, significant addition of value at the moment. Sense of art and appreciation. The systems that suppressed creativity were disrupted by new technology. That's right. That's right. Right. Philosophical point of view, maybe this fusion of the post de ex machina, and I think Deus ex machina, and I think what's interesting is you hit it right on the head, right? Like it's the centralization that had occurred of power and of money and of even of art, right? Like there was very much a, and no knock on the church necessarily, but even the church had begun to be one of the forces of centralization and greed, and had really brought together um, so many things. Some people would go so far as to say steal, had stolen so much of the art. I mean, so you've got art, you've got money, you've got the power piece of it that had centralized, right? And you're seeing in a similar way that happen today. That the centralization is fragmenting and fragile, and it's fracturing, and now all of a sudden here's this rise, right? And it's been subtly happening. It didn't just happen overnight. And it was the same thing in the Renaissance. you had people in 2000. Technically, you could go back even as far as the mid 80s, where people began to envision a different day. The 90s were when we began to see some of the technology go more out into the public. Obviously, mid 2000s, we saw it go even further. But by 2008, 2009, oddly enough, in the middle of what was a difficult season economically, it moved people to push that innovation further out into the mainstream or into the public, even if it was just the early adapters. And in those early adapters, right, they began to see what was happening and realized this is a moment, right? Like this is a chance for us to see, like we've talked about, the cross disciplines come together, like we've talked about, the centralization of power begin to be decentralized, it come back to the beauty and the justice and the compassion and the wisdom of what people together as humanity could be. And so, without preaching a big sermon on all of that, I would just say I'm convinced that we have begun that moment of the second Renaissance, and that we are just at the very beginning of seeing what that could mean. And you might say that's an odd intro for crypto ecosystems and DeFi, but I would suggest that that context is incredibly significant when it comes to even understanding why there are crypto ecosystems and why investing in DeFi is even an opportunity at the moment. And so I created a visual that really, to be honest, is more of a reference tool. And this reference tool, I don't intend to walk through it all today in the sense of we'll look at each page in great detail. I wanted you to have it, and so I have it available as a PDF, and McCole, I can put it into the residency chats of 1 and 2 if that's what would make it accessible to people after this call, or I can do it even now. But after this call, for sure, I can put that there. And but as we walk through it here, I want to engage with you guys, and so I don't want to just talk, right? So if you see something that spurs a thought, if you see something that brings about um, a question, or that brings about a suggestion, or a feedback, or an insight, please do type it out or speak up and join in, and let's dialogue together about this. I want to say as we enter into it that I didn't assume anything, and so I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence. But I'm going to take a little bit of a stance as we introduce some of this, as though we are all new to it, as though we are all trying to understand what crypto ecosystems and DeFi really are. Is that fair? I hope I'm not insulting anyone's intelligence by doing that. So, looking at these basic terms, right? If you take a look at these basic terms, first you see, thank you. First you see cryptocurrency, right? So what is that? It's a digital currency derived from cryptographic encryption techniques designed to protect the network. You see it right there, right? And so the beauty of cryptocurrency is that it actually is more backed than most people give it credit for, because it's backed by systems and development and interactivity. I try to explain it to people and say, if you go back into the medieval times prior to the first Renaissance, you would see, if I was a goat herder and I had goat milk, I would trade goat milk for something else that I needed. If I was if I raised chickens, I would trade eggs for something that I needed. If I was an artist, I might trade art with someone who at that time was a wealthy person, in order to gain access to a place to live, or to be almost like a resident artist there with someone. And so whatever I could offer I would bring to the table, and it was part of what was exchangeable. And in some ways, right, in some ways, everything that we exchange like that is non-fungible. It isn't fungible. In other words, it's not exchangeable and then goes away, or exchangeable and it has the same exact value. It's non-fungible in that it represents something of value, but it doesn't necessarily burn or go away in the exchange. And so, in other words, it's not a one-to-one ratio of concept. And so, what cryptocurrency is the new form of that, right? It's a simplicity that isn't just backed by a stack of gold somewhere. That really no fiat money is backed by a stack of gold anymore. It isn't backed by that, but it's backed by the interactivity. It's backed by the development technologically. It's backed by relationship. It's backed by the dynamic that comes in all of these ecosystems and the way that they interact with each other. And so it's just a digital currency that really comes out of and is exchangeable in the midst of all of these systems. And so the blockchain becomes the public ledger, right? It becomes the way people can say, "Oh, that's how that was spent, and that's what that person sent it to this." And you see one of my favorite projects right now, if you don't know about it, is Proof of Beauty Studios, and they have one of their projects called the Hashed project that will go into the Ethereum blockchain and take unique events and then historically create generative art based upon those unique events. And they're looking at the public ledger, what was how money was exchanged, and creating an NFT from it. It's a very cool project if you don't know about it. And then smart contracts are an irreversible contract that's built on code, exists on a blockchain, and it's basically an if-then concept. If this happens, then this happens. And the smart contracts in essence become the way that the public ledger can be trusted. So in other words, it isn't just that someone has $1 million and they say, "Hey, I might use it for X, right? For whatever that is," and then they change their mind, right? Well, what the smart contracts enable is if a certain amount of money is needed for something, the smart contracts create trust. And some people even go so far to use the word trustless, right? Where you don't need to bring trust to the table because the smart contract is written and it says, if this happens, then this happens. And so, because of the cryptocurrency, the exchangeable value, and the publicity, the public nature of that ledger and how that value that's exchanged can be seen, and then the smart contract creates the reliability and the trust to say, if, then, and then we know that that's going to occur. And so, if we have a grip on these terms, then it helps us kind of understand what the ecosystems are. Now, let me pause for a second. And first of all, just see if anyone has a question or a rebuke. You may say, "No, Jace, you're totally wrong. I see it this way." And I'm here to learn too. So I welcome that. But I want to pause before I jump into this little 2-minute video and just see if anyone has a question or if you're even still with me out there. All right. I'm here with you. Thanks. All right.
I
So
think we all are.
good stuff. All right, so I hope again that I'm not insulting your intelligence. I'm sensitive to that, but I find that even people who are deep into the NFT side of everything that's going on, and and especially the fine art side of everything that's going on, there's still a lot that people are scratching their head about and asking questions about to understand the systems, right? And so again, at the risk of insulting your intelligence, I want to show 2 quick videos. McCall, is that okay? Um, and these are from
Yeah, of course.
these are from a friend of mine that has a site called CryptoHeat.io, and it's referenced at the end of the presentation. And I'll again put this PDF in the 2 residencies, but cryptoheat.io, if you see it there. And so what we'll do is watch these two real quickly, and then I'll kind of give a timeline and then ask a couple questions based on where you see we are now as a group. All right? So here goes. Let me know if you can or can't hear it.
We can't hear it, sorry.
Oh, here, let's see. All right, let's see. I wonder how to fix that. I thought that in the sharing of it that it would.
I think maybe if you open the video on the navigator and stream, only the navigator will listen, maybe.
Okay. All right, let's see. Let me see if that will work. All right. All right, let me grab the link to it here.
Or but we still don't listen. But this thing that I said sometimes works on Windows. I don't know on Mac how it works.
Let's see. Maybe if I take. Let me take my sound off, right? Out of my headphones and see if that does it. And then if it doesn't do it, I'll move on. How about that? I won't waste our time with it.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin, also known as BTC,
It's working.
all modern cryptocurrencies. First proposed in a white paper in 2008 by the pseudonymous Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin is peer to peer digital money built on top of an open source blockchain. So let's break this down. Peer to peer means that Bitcoin can be used directly by two parties without involving banks, private companies, or other financial institutions. Digital money. Bitcoin is software, zeros and ones. It does not exist in physical form like gold. Open source. This code is created by a community of people all over the world. It's not owned by any single person or company. Blockchain. A blockchain is a shared public ledger that records transactions. Right now, Bitcoin is used in multiple ways. As electronic cash, Bitcoin can be used to pay for things and transfer value directly between two parties. Some people think Bitcoin can be a long-term store of value. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins mined, and this cap on supply supports an argument that Bitcoin won't face inflationary pressure and should be considered a form of digital gold. An important side note about Bitcoin. Some people have assumed that you can only buy one whole Bitcoin at a time. This is not the case. You can buy tiny fractions of a Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, the smallest divisible unit of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. 100 million Satoshis make up one Bitcoin. So that's a start. To follow news, track prices, and learn more about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, check out cryptoheat.io, your on ramp to the world of cryptocurrency.
All right, let me try this next one real quickly, and then I want to show you a timeline and ask a question.
Is Ether. Ether, also called ETH, is an open source digital currency.
Thank you for your patience.
Is Ether. Ether, also called ETH, is an open source digital currency and the native cryptocurrency used on the Ethereum network. A key to understanding Ether is to understand Ethereum, an open source programmable blockchain, upon which software developers can build decentralized applications or DApps. A DApp can be almost anything. Here are a few examples. Decentralized financial services. Imagine being able to borrow, lend, or invest without a bank or company in the middle. Prediction markets, where people can bet on the outcome of events. Games where you can earn, own, and trade in-game assets. The key thing to remember here is that all of these things can be built on top of Ethereum, and ETH is the native cryptocurrency used for this blockchain. Because Ethereum, and consequently ETH, is open source and decentralized, there is no company, organization, or individual that controls ETH. So that's a start. To follow news, track prices, and learn more about Ether and other cryptocurrencies, check out cryptoheat.io, your on ramp to the world of cryptocurrency. What is Ether?
All right, so giving you the two links there in the presentation, and I hope that's helpful. I find that website, by the way, cryptoheat.io, which is not it's not as it's not very popular yet, and so if you get in on it, you'll be one of the early ones adopting it or using it. But what I love about it is it heat maps multiple basically as many of the current cryptocurrencies that exist, and it heat maps them and shows you them in different and I put the link there in the chat. It puts it puts it in different forms to where you can click on and tap it, and then you're able to move it into a place where you learn about it. You see latest news, you see the trends and things like that. And so I'll talk more about that when I talk about investments here in just a minute. But let's talk for a second about just real briefly this timeline, right? And you're back looking at the presentation now, if I understand correctly, based on what I'm seeing at least. And then, so look at this evolution. The evolution of cryptocurrency. You have Nakamoto in 09, and there's a lot of debate, obviously, as to who Nakamoto is. Is it one person? Is it a group of people? No one really knows. but we know that they came up with something that absolutely changed the game when it came to the ability to exchange value with each other. Litecoin Launches, which was an attempt to try to create a simpler version. Ripple is founded in 2012, and some people like Ripple, some people don't. It is basically a network and a technological group that seeks to create cross-border payment optimization. So I would suggest that Ripple will end up playing a major part in every aspect of cryptocurrency. But we can talk more about that here in just a bit. The price of a single Bitcoin reaches 1,000. In 2015, Ethereum launches, and a lot of people criticized and said they launched too early, but they got a minimum viable product out there, right? They put something out there in an attempt to kind of give a different aspect or angle to how cryptocurrency works. Where Bitcoin had a specific way that it was validated, that it was approved, that transactions were approved. Ethereum created an opportunity to build more of a network for approval and to build more of a true ecosystem, which is what we're getting at. That's why I'm giving you this timeline. And so then over 1,000 cryptocurrencies end up being listed in 2017, which I don't know about you. Obviously, I'm in it most every day, and from an investment standpoint, in both the stock market and the crypto market, which is currency exchange. I mean, if you talk honestly about what the crypto market is right now, it's currency exchange. I'm in that every day, and even I get overwhelmed with how many there are, right? And so it's not easy to keep up with it by any means. And then you've got EOS comes out and tries to create the infrastructure to allow for decentralized apps. And this was a game changer. And EOS hasn't done quite exactly what I think some people wanted. But I think they're trying to regroup. Dfinity now is similar in the sense of trying to create an opportunity to have a truly decentralized infrastructure. And so then now the future, right? And you can see this timeline is old. It's from Visualize Visual Capitalist, and it's one of those that there wasn't a current one that I found, and so I thought I would put this one in there. And I'll just say that I want to hear from you instead of me telling you where we are now. What is this last section, this future section, right? Like what has happened since 2018 based on what you're seeing that moves us into the space where you are now in a vertical crypto art residency cohort number 2 and seeking to really learn and understand what's going on. What has happened since that EOS drop that has moved us into the current moment? Tell me about some of the other developments that are out there that you're aware of.
In terms of other cryptocurrencies or in general?
Yeah, in general. I mean, just in the DeFi ecosystem, in the fintech ecosystems, and I'll start by giving the obvious one, right? Like NFTs, right? Like, I mean, that's an obvious one. But even how to describe further what that is and the way that that's developed and some of the other things now that have come online and that are beginning to come onto people's radars.
Yeah, the NFT marketplace, yeah, for instance, on many different blockchains, the explosion this year on Ethereum, the total value locked of DeFi on Ethereum. What is the total value locked? Like over $1 billion. I don't know what the number is, but that's a pretty big thing.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
other blockchains like Cardano, Tezos, Near coming out, proof of stake being more of a direction of the cryptocurrencies are going, including Ethereum, wanting to move to layer 2. What else? Yeah, that's about it for me.
I love it. Thank you, Michael. And I, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's the NFT spaces and the marketplaces and the furtherance of the various the market cap, the outside investments that have come. But that's what excites me about these next few slides I want to show you guys, because I think when you take a look at it, you start realizing, okay, a lot happened along this timeline, but then all of a sudden it kind of just it blew up, right? Like it not in a negative way, in a positive way. It exploded into this incredible opportunity. And so I'm not going to spend a detailed amount of time on each of these, but I want to just show you various ecosystems that have now really kind of risen to the top, so to speak, right? And so I want to make sure you're seeing it, but you guys are seeing the screen as I'm sharing it, I'm assuming. And so look here, for example, this is a basic layout, and very basic, from June 25th, 2021, a very basic layout of the current view of how many different major players there are now playing in the overall crypto ecosystem. So this isn't just Ethereum or Solana or some of the various ones that we'll look at here in a moment. This is the big picture. And so again, I'll put this PDF as a whole in the two residency chats, McCole, and give people the chance to use it as a reference tool. And you can look back at it, kind of get a feel. There may be ones you want to research or you want to take a little further look at, but let me explain a few of them. Exchange, right? Most of you probably are familiar with an exchange, because you typically are using an exchange in order to somehow attain and obtain a form of cryptocurrency. So let's say, for example, you interact on OpenSea more than anywhere else, then you obviously are using something like MetaMask, which is a wallet. You can see that in the second frame. And you're using an exchange of some sort, whether it's the exchange inside of MetaMask that leverages the various exchanges that are out there, or it's Uniswap because you find that, maybe you found one that you think, I love the gas fees on this better than someone else. And I find that Uniswap typically is competitive in that. And then so you, in the exchange and the wallets, you know what that is. You've got blockchain platforms, which are kind of the, if you will, continents, so to speak, right? If you put it into a geographic metaphor, the blockchain platforms become the major continents, inside of which countries, cities, and neighborhoods are built in this ecosystem. So Bitcoin would be the largest continent at the current moment. Ethereum would be the second largest continent, so to speak, and so on. And so and then some of these, like Polygon, is built inside of the Ethereum continent, right? Like, it's, even though these are layer two, or what's called layer two, or they're called side chains, if you've heard that phrase, you got Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they have side chains built around them that link into them and are very much dependent upon them. And then you have some that are built that are independent of those, and we'll get to some more of those in just a minute. Stablecoin, obviously, those are the ones that relate typically to the fiat dollar. Tooling, obviously, gaming and NFTs. I'm curious. I'd love to see just a quick, either a raise of hand or a thumbs up or whatever from you. How many of you are involved in some way right now, like at this moment, in the NFT space or in the gaming space, and you have seen how cryptocurrency and NFTs play a part in gaming and in the NFT space? I'm curious. Quick shout out or quick responses from any of you that are in that have seen what gaming can do and is a part of from this perspective, and what NFTs obviously are, as you are a part of this residency. You know what that is.
Yeah, I've seen like a lot of articles about Xe, and the first time I saw it was really amazing to see like a way to obtain like money or cryptocurrency, like
Yeah.
only playing a game, and that was really, really powerful to me because I've been really connected with games since my early ages, and seeing this like turning to a professional thing, not only being a professional player, like a pro player that you play good, but if you play like a long time, you can make money through this.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm kind of nervous. That's
No,
sometimes
that's
it's hard
good.
to talk in English because I'm not fluent. But yeah, like I played a lot like Counter Strike and seeing the marketplace of skins. It's really similar how a lot of things works on an FG space in general, and that's it. It, it I don't know. I
That's
think
great.
it's awesome. Yeah.
No, I agree. And by the way, I think your English is fantastic. It's better than most people I know who speak English. So, and so just to encourage your confidence there, I think I think you're right. I mean, when I remember the first time, and I was introduced because of a project that I worked on. I was introduced to Gabby D-Zone back in the spring, and I love Gabby and his heart and all of this. And he runs a company called Yield Guild, which works with Axie, but other gaming groups as well. And I remember hearing him talk about it back in the spring, and for where I really I kind of caught for the first time because I'm like I said, I've got my oldest son is in college, right? So I'm a little bit older, but I've always been in innovation and in kind of futuristic spaces, and so I love that. But I haven't been as familiar with the gaming space, right? Because that's not been something that was absolutely central to my growing up years. I played with Nintendo and Atari when I was growing up, right? And so and so hearing Gabby talk about it, and then realizing that even one of his children has made enough already to begin saving up her future, and then Gabby recently, they Yield Guild hired someone focused fully on finding communities that are kind of trapped in the cycle of poverty, and introducing gaming concepts for the sake of creating an entrance into the global economy for those people. And so you start hearing that and you're going, man, what beauty and what good this could be. And so it really is opening doors in really unique ways. And I love it. I see it there, Gabriel. They're not involved yet with NFTs, crypto on a deep dive level. They're playing Axie, and yep. And it's funny, Gabby said, and I think it's different now, but early this summer, Gabby made the statement that there really aren't very many Americans yet playing Axie. And I will say that I'm undefeated at it so far, just to kind of be silly with you. I've played once and won. So I haven't decided if I'm going to hang it up yet, but so far I'm 1-0 it. I like being in that spot. But if you're able to get it to get your Axies, right? And what's cool is Yield Guild helps to get Axie. They give Axie scholarships for people who can't afford to buy the Axies because they're not cheap, right? To jump into the game. And so all that to say, the gaming piece has been huge. And then you see DeFi and you see all the various layers that's the biggest box, right? And so this is kind of how all of these various tools and opportunities are beginning to flesh themselves out into borrowing and lending, into banking, into saving, into currency exchange, into enterprise systems for companies. So there's some pretty amazing things happening in the DeFi space there. So let me just quickly walk through these because I want to close out here in a second and just take the last, because I think we go to 10:30, right, McCall? Is that right?
So
I'm
10:30.
sorry. I
Wait.
think we go to half past the next hour. Sorry, half past
Exactly.
the
Yes.
next hour.
Yes.
Yes. My
Keep
bad. I got American on you there, and I apologize. So yes, yeah, UTC time we go to 6:30, right? Is that correct?
correct.
Or 5:30
And if
for this one.
yeah,
Yeah.
40 minutes essentially. But I
Yeah,
mean,
40
if
minutes or so.
people, if you go over, it's okay. If people can hang around, they can hang around.
Okay,
No
yeah.
pressure in that sense.
Good stuff. All right. So take a look at these with me. And this isn't to overwhelm you. Again, it's a reference tool. But when you look back at this timeline and you go, okay, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, Ethereum, the ecosystem launches, and then now all of a sudden you're here, right? I mean, that's how quickly things have developed since 2018, right? And then look inside of the Ethereum ecosystem. So this is only the Ethereum ecosystem. And it changes every day, right? There's no way to even keep it up to date. But you see stable coins, which create kind of the stable coins are what make cryptocurrency currently accessible into the fiat or the global financial system. And so fiat, if you're familiar with that term, it's basically just whatever the government backed paper currency is, right? It's a term from back in the days of when the king of the British Empire set the currency. And so that term, the fiat term, these stable coins allow interactivity with the current global financial system and the paper-backed dollar, right? And so that's what happens there. The service layer, just to give you kind of each of these layers real quickly, the service layer is where you see the opportunity for some type of interactivity, whether it's borrowing and lending, whether it's use in companies, whether it's a chance to save and to bank, it's payment optimization concepts. And then you've got infrastructure and development tools, and these are the groups that help create the smart contracts and the canisters and the platforms, the dApps, and then they allow for the infrastructure for DAOs, for example. We didn't even mention DAOs, and that's what I wanted to point out. Looking at the current visual on the screen, the crypto ecosystem, the big picture. This was in June 2021. We were already working on a DAO at the time. Ian Lee came out with what's called Syndicate DAO. There were some other DAOs. DAO is how you spell it. DAO, which is Decentralized Authority Organization. And so um, the DAO is something that will probably end up replacing a lot of for-profit company structures and not-for-profit structures as an opportunity for people to come together as a community of people and to invest in certain things, to go after certain causes, to create certain businesses. And that's not even on this ecosystem chart, and it's huge now. And that's only 3-4 months from when this particular visual was made. And so you can see how quickly things are moving. And on this Ethereum layer, if you look at the infrastructure development layer, that's where a lot of those things play. And so the asset management tools also interact with the DAOs, and that's where you see a lot of the wallets. And then you go out even further and you see the exchanges, which allows the money to then engage into the everyday world and to engage with other cryptocurrencies. So here are the major ecosystems, right? Ethereum is the biggest one. Binance, some people like Binance, some people don't, but Binance has a very significant part in the current in the way that the various ecosystems play with each other into a broader system. Um, Cardano, if you're familiar with Cardano, is there, and they are growing rapidly. And some of you may even know that Cardano ADA is what the coin term typically is that you'll see. They have their own NFT marketplace now as well. And so that's a picture of kind of how much is going on with them. the Solana ecosystem, which is growing extremely rapidly and already has, and then in fact, as far as the last check, had an NFT sale of over $2 million recently in fiat American dollars. And so significant value already being exchanged there, and you can see that. XRP is Ripple. It's one that I'm not giving you investment advice necessarily, but I would encourage you to pay attention to, because I think as this plays out more into the mainstream, you're going to see Ripple be a significant part of how the infrastructure and how the structure of it moving into the mainstream plays itself out. Ripple is already working with banking systems and financial systems in over 60 countries, and growing every day. And so they're a player that's trying to bridge a lot of it together. Polkadot, trying to create a cheaper way to interact with all of the various ecosystems, and they're doing some amazing things. I think you'll continue to see them grow. The Terra ecosystem, which if any of you have even heard of the Terra ecosystem, it's likely that you've heard of it because of one of their stable coins, UST, or because of some of the other aspects of their wallets and exchanges. But they're growing obviously significantly. And so I wanted to show you this slide and the next slide, because I thought it would give kind of a big picture of how much is really developing at this moment. And so this is as of yesterday. As of yesterday, these were the top 12 crypto market cap. So the market cap being what the basic worth or value is out there in the vast ecosystem, the overall ecosystem, kind of the meta ecosystem, if you will, of how they all play together. So Bitcoin is still the biggest. It's now at 1 trillion plus. You see that? You've got 495 billion there with Ethereum. You've got in the 80 billion plus range there with Binance, and you keep going down. Cardano 71, Tether 69. Still seeing the same slide? Did it advance there?
I think we are at crypto ecosystem. Big one. Like the huge
This
one
one?
on
Let's see. Let me get out of it.
slide 7.
Okay. Yeah, so you can see, did that change it now?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, good. All right. I apologize. Boy, that stinks. All right, so let me briefly go back over that. So here was the broad ecosystem. Here was the broad ecosystem. And then what I did is I advanced through the various ones, right? So here's the meta, kind of how it hit the overarching picture, right? Sorry about that. I'm sorry it took a second to even catch that. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. So here's the broader ecosystem. And then here's the Ethereum ecosystem, right? And this is the largest, the most developed, the one that gets the most play right now. Did that advance? You're seeing that slide number 8 now? Good, okay. And then this is the Binance ecosystem, and this is the one that I mentioned earlier. Some people like it, some people don't, but it's a major player in the game right now. This is Cardano. You can already see how much is developing on their ecosystem, and they are really trying to be, along with Solana, a competitor, but not competitor in a siloed way, right? Because that's the heart of decentralized. The heart of decentralization was not to create more centralized groups, right? and unfortunately, that's a part of what's happening. It's a part of the problem, and why it's taking longer to get this into the mainstream. And so Cardano is trying to help bridge some of that. Solana has a huge development, so you should be seeing slide 11 now, right? And that Solana I mentioned a while ago about them already having significant NFT sales, and there are a lot of engineers, people who and developers who were very much ETH maxis, right? Maybe you've heard that term where someone says I'm a Bitcoin maxi or I'm an ETH maxi, and what they mean is that they believe only in that particular ecosystem and that particular crypto, and what's being developed on it. They don't want to pay attention to the others, and so Solana really began to draw away some of the ETH maxis to pay attention to what would allow for cheaper movement of the currency, what would allow for cheaper development. And so the gas fees on Ethereum at times can be frustrating, right? I mean, right? I feel like if I said, "Can I get a witness?" like they do in some of the American church settings, right? That you guys would give hands up and thumbs up all throughout. But the gas fees can be crazy, and so Solana is trying to create a different picture, right? And Cardano the same way, to where you're not moving currency with a gas fee of that significance. All right, and then I'll move on here in just a second. But yeah, let's see. Can any organization inside a blockchain be considered a DAO, even being from centralized institution and just using DeFi? Great question. So basically the answer to that would be not really. What I mean by that is unless they form a way for money to be pooled together and used and then governed by a group of people together, and then it's moved on some aspect of the public ledger of the blockchain. So let me give you an example. A company like Pepsi, right? A company like Pepsi could say that we're going to buy some NFTs and we're going to start accepting Ethereum. And, let's say a company, hypothetically, a company like Pepsi was doing that. If they did that and bought some NFTs and exchanged some cryptocurrency, and began to do business even inside of the blockchain, they wouldn't necessarily be considered a DAO. But if they said, okay, we're going to form a Pepsi DAO, again, I'm giving this just as an example. I don't know that Pepsi has plans for this, although they'd be wise to do so. If they formed a Pepsi DAO, then what they would do is say, okay, we're going to invite people to not only purchase whatever the currency was that they wanted to use. It could be Solana, for example. They could say, okay, if you are going to get Solana, then you'll get Solana, and we're going to begin to pool that together to use for a certain purpose. And it could be that Pepsi says, we want to start making sure that underdeveloped countries have fine art programs, or we want to make sure that all of Africa, let's say they get crazy and they say, we want to make sure every bit of the continent of Africa has clean water. And so since they're a drink company, right? Which would be incredible, right? I mean, it would be beautiful. And so they would say, okay, we're going to pool this together. And then if they were a DAO, they would have smart contracts that then begin to say if this happens, then this happens with the money that's being used. And then a group of people who invest in that then can govern and vote on all the proposals that would be made. And so now it's a decentralized governance, it's a decentralized decision making that's happening in the midst of that. Does that make sense? Good stuff. All right. And so so that's how it becomes a DAO versus just being a regular business. And so Solana would be a great use case for that because they could move the money very inexpensively. Ripple, I mentioned earlier, and I won't go back into everything I said earlier, but just to say again, I think they're going to be really central to how money is, how all of the cryptocurrencies are moved globally and across borders. They're already engaging in 60 plus countries. Polkadot is really rising significantly right now, and they're developing some really significant tools. You can, for example, if you're looking for a passive income opportunity, you can try to get involved with one of the Polkadot validators. Do you see that structure, that layer there? And if you go to their website and look at some of these different stake-in validators, POS bakers, Ryabina, Steakfish, like you see these are opportunities to invest and have passive income. So in other words, you would make some money on your money as they use it, and it would validate transactions inside of their ecosystem, their blockchain. So there's that could be in and of itself, Nicole, a whole other residency conversation, but about how to help some of these artists make some passive income with some of these various tools. But the validators and the staking systems that exist in these ecosystems, they are opportunities for that. Terra, I mentioned earlier that's one that you may or may not know about. But take a look at this, and this was the slide I was getting at with the top 12 crypto market cap. And so again, a market cap is the worth right now, the value that the broader market gives to this particular product or company, or in this case, DeFi effort. And so you can see Bitcoin has topped $1 trillion. And you keep going down the list in the billions. You see how big Ethereum is compared to everyone else, second to Bitcoin. And then you keep going down the list, and you find, oddly enough, right? I did top 12 so that if you have heard of Dogecoin, which was first made even as a joke, right, to kind of poke fun, and you can see it's not much of a joke anymore, right? Like they're now at a $34 billion market cap. And then you even see Center, which is there and that's USDC. If any of you have ever used USDC, you see Center is a part of that. Terra, which does Luna and UST, if you've seen those, I mentioned that. And then the Shiba token, which a lot of people are really excited about right now because of how quickly its value is going up. It now is number 12 in all cryptocurrencies from a market cap perspective at 16 billion. And so look at these, the top 12 alone now, just the top 12. Remember, there are lots more than this, are now at a $2 trillion market cap. But look how much has happened in the last year. So you should be seeing slide 16 now. The top 12, right now, 2 trillion plus. A year ago today, every single cryptocurrency combined market cap was 392 billion. Okay, just take that in for a second. So currently the top 12 are 2 trillion plus. A year ago today, every single cryptocurrency that existed was only a market cap of 392 billion. And I don't say only like that's not a lot. I mean only compared to what just the top 12 are now, right? And so huge advances in the last 12 months. So quickly looking here at the question, hang on, do you have any article about how they can make a DeFi, how it fluctuates with the fiat price like USDT and USDC? Great question. So if you want to know one of the best examples that I've seen of that, I'll grab you if you go to it's Terra. If you go to the Terra website, the Terra Ecosystem website, which I want to say is terra.money, if I remember right. If you go to that website, they have, and you watch their intro, and I'll drop the link here for it. I'll drop the link for it into the Discord chat here.
Imagine you've invested in Google, Tesla.
Right, and if you go to their site and see it, it's their intro and some of the various things on theirs give an example of how the stable coins fluctuate. So they'll talk about UST and Luna and things like that and how they fluctuate. But that's an incredible site to go to. So Terra.money. And then the other one that I think might help answer that question even better than I could right now, a short video there would answer it. But then also Center, the USDC site has a few short videos on that as well. So all right, I wanted to know from you about the bear trap strategies and things to watch on Tez for future times. I mean, inside Tez mainnet, what are some of the main DeFi paths toward having passive income besides minting and selling NFT tokens? Great question, right? So take a look here. Funny that you mentioned that. So honorable mention on the other ecosystems that are not in the top 12, right? One of them is Tezos. And so as like you're saying in your question, the Tezos ecosystem is growing significantly, and what they're doing from an NFT perspective is growing significantly. I think when you look here at this slide, let's see, and forgive me, I see your username in here, but I didn't catch your name, so I can't for FLPGFX, but oh, Felipe, thank you. And so Felipe, if you look at this slide that I'm looking at now in the Tezos ecosystem, obviously you mentioned the NFTs piece, which they really are doing some significant things there, but there's several ways to make passive income with them. If you look at the DeFi block on this slide, and I'm looking at slide 18, if you look at the DeFi block there, if you research a few of these, like for example, farm soil or elevated returns, some of those, the TezX, the Staker DAO would be a good one. They're going to do some liquidity. They have liquidity pools. And liquidity pools are where even if you put a little bit of money in, like my son, for example, my 20-year-old college student, he has put a little bit of money that he's made, into some of the liquidity pools that are there, and is seeing some passive income come in. And so a liquidity pool is basically like, let's say a group of us, let's say that everybody in residency group 2, let's say we decided, okay, we want to invest a little bit together and try to grow our money. And we might say, let's start a liquidity pool. Let's all buy some Tezos together, for example, and we're going to put it into a pool together. And then we're going to link it to one of these staker sites that you see there in their DeFi section or in the tools section. You can see a few there as well, but in the DeFi section in particular, you see, like, let's say Staker DAO, for example, and we linked one of our liquidity pools, our pool of money, right? Like our group's money into one of these and we staked it with them, and they used it to borrow and lend money. They used it to develop further technological tools and things like that. Then we would be making interest on that money, and they would share they would be making interest on it, I should say, and then they would share some of that interest back with the people who put money into the pool. So, for example, if you put in, for example, if they are linking to a stable coin, the way that a stable coin goes back and forth in its value from a 1-to-1 ratio, they can make money on that. The company can, the group can, and then the people who stake in it or put money in liquidity pools, their money grows because they share the group. So let's say Staker DAO, for example, they would make money on the money you put into that, and then they would share it back with you. And that's how the liquidity pool works. Does that make sense?
With this decade now, are there any risks apart from obvious hacks and just the price of crypto going down, like in investing in that pool?
Yeah, I mean the risks, as you know, with any investing, right? That's why I'm not giving you investment advice today. That's the disclaimer I'm supposed to constantly give, right? Um, you know, if you if the risks involved are the normal risks, right? Like if you say, okay, I really believe in this product, but then all of a sudden 6 months from now it tanks, and you've staked a certain amount into it, then whatever the value goes down to, obviously your value is gonna deplete, right? It's gonna go down with that. But there aren't a lot of other risks other than that. I mean, that's why, and I'll give you some examples of ones that I'm paying attention to significantly um, here in just a second, that I think are doing incredible work, and that's what I would say. Don't chase, right? Does everyone understand what I mean when I say that? So just because someone says, "Oh, this is skyrocketing right now and it's going up 100% or whatever," I would encourage you not to chase that, because that's risky, very, very, very risky. And if all of a sudden people sell off or they get out of it, then you may end up losing a lot of what you put into it. But I would say do research and find a few products, a few companies that you believe in, right? So Felipe, for example, who asked about Tez, if you believe in Tezos, right, then find a way to stake some of your Tezos so that it's a long-term investment. Does that make sense? So even as it fluctuates, which all money is going to fluctuate, I think that's what I think that's what is one of the big hurdles, is people don't realize that cryptocurrency is money. Does that make sense? Like in other words, when I think of an American dollar, it's one, right? And so for an American, Americans would say, well, that's just one. But if you understand the global currency market, that one may be one to me, but that one changes in value based upon the way it interacts with other global currencies. Does that make sense? And so whatever your current country's currency is going to change in value based upon its interaction. And so same thing is happening with cryptocurrency, right? Ethereum may rise, and so Polygon's going to rise. Bitcoin may rise, and so Celsius is going to rise because Celsius plays a lot on Bitcoin. And so, do you get what I'm saying? So you have to begin to start thinking. Um, you have to begin to start thinking about this in terms of an ETH is an ETH, right? Don't just think an ETH is worth $4,200 in American dollars or whatever your country's currency is. We have to start thinking of it as an ETH. One ETH is one ETH, right? Or 0.1 ETH is 0.1 ETH, if that makes sense, because it's a currency. And so when you think about it like that, then you don't think of risk as much. You look for the companies that you believe in, and you really go for it. Like Felipe, like you're saying, you want to see a more sustainable future. You think they're doing great work, right? Tezos. And so if you believe in what they're doing, then invest in them, right? And grow with them as they grow. I think that's a healthy way to go about it. Um, And yes, I got another question in one of the other Discord spots. I'll drop the links there in that. And McCole, I thought I saw a question come up or something come up that you said, but I'm not seeing it right now.
No, I just made an announcement on the general Discord. No worries.
Okay, my bad, my bad. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was. All right. All right. So let me look back, make sure I didn't miss a question. Let's see. Did I miss any? I'm trying to think. Let's see. Christian said, which play to earn platforms do you feel has the easiest but yet affordable entry point with the potential of good returns? Great question. And so Christian, if you're still there, sorry, it took me a second to get back to your question. I would say two. I think even though Axie is not very affordable right now, if you look at it, but it's a great game, and so you can go to Yield Guild, and I think it's yieldguild.io. Let me look it up real quickly. But you can go to Yield Guild, and you can even potentially apply for. Let's see. I think that's right. Yeah, but you can potentially apply for help to get a if you need. I don't know, and I'm not trying to assume that you need that or you don't need that, but if you need help to get into the Axie game, you can apply for help there to get scholarship for an Axie. But if you go to Yield Guild, you'll also see the other games that they interact with. And so they don't just interact with Axie. And that's one of the things I love about what Gabby Dizon's doing with Yield Guild. They try to give people the chance to jump into other games, if that makes sense. And so that's one that you may want to look at. But then on the internet computer, on the ICP or Definity, they've got a few play to earn games that are out now that are very accessible and I think are worth your time. And then the Solana ecosystem has a few, and I'm drawing a blank right now on the name. Let me look back at their slide. See if it jars memory here. No, I don't see it on their slide because it's one of their more recent developments. But if you look at Solana, they've got some gaming projects going on now. If you go to their website, and that are more accessible. And so, Christian, that was for Christian Hernandez art, I think. Christian Hernandez art. If you caught that one, I was answering your question.
Yes, appreciate that.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, and then any other questions before I'll wrap up the slides and then we can kind of close with Q&A. All right, did I miss any? Bring it back to my attention if I missed any. I'm looking back through the chat here. Good question. Best NFT marketplace on Solana right now. It's not easy to answer right away, but I would say the ones that I pay the most attention to. I'm looking back at that slide just to see if there's any that I'm forgetting. The Solarians group and what they're doing, I pay a lot of attention to. I feel like there's one I'm forgetting. The Meta Market group is one that definitely is doing some good stuff on them. But I'll tell you, Solana there's so much happening on their ecosystem right now. If you go to their website, it's actually really accessible. So Solana.com, I think it is. Yeah, so if you go to their website to solana.com/ecosystem, and I'll put the link here in the chat. If you go to their website on their ecosystem, there's so much happening so quickly right now that you can look at some of the various things, and you can even select in your search see if you scroll down a little bit on that link, you can select in your search. And here I'll share that part of my screen. There we go. So see, I'm on solana.com/ecosystem. And if you go down, you scroll down, you'll see new projects, NFTs, DeFi, app, and the various things. And so if you see off to the right here, this list, the tags. So put in gaming and you'll see 2 that they have there. You put in NFTs, they have 193 now. But if you put that in, then you can go down through and see some of the basic ones that they have. And it's, you'll see not only the actual marketplaces, but you'll see a lot of the various projects, if that makes sense. And so you want to keep going down. And one of the ones that's, a basic, that's actually a marketplace and not just a project, you can see there. You can also select that in the tags to find other ways to access it. But I think I would just go there and look and see, Gabriel. All right. All right, I'll wrap up here with these just to kind of give you some of my, and again, I'm not giving you investment advice, but to give you some of the projects currently that I'm paying a lot of attention to, in case it's helpful to kind of give you some ideas of how to invest or how to do some research. Again, I'll put this PDF and the various links so that you guys will have it to go back to as a reference tool. There are a lot of use cases in the crypto ecosystem. There's a slide in there for that kind of gives you, and that's where we talked about already peer-to-peer borrowing and lending. You should be seeing slide 23. Let me know if you're not. But peer-to-peer borrowing and lending, yield farming, liquidity pools, staking, DEXs, NFTs, and DAOs. And so I feel like today in our time, obviously I knew we'd have limited time from the standpoint of getting a base where we can kind of understand the overarching ecosystem as a whole, and then looking and taking a deep dive into any unique piece. So Nicole, if there's interest, there may not be, but if there's any interest in doing more of a deep dive into the passive income piece or the liquidity pools, staking, those kinds of things, or even DAOs, then I would obviously love to have more conversation about that. And then really quickly, I mentioned cryptoheat.io. I'm just going to go through these last few slides to tell you these projects that I think are worth you doing some research on. Cryptoheat.io does a great job of giving you a place to find access for that research, right? So like if you go to that website and you click on one of these heat boxes, Atom, for example, the one in the middle, then it'll tell you the latest news. It'll give you a description of what that is. And they do an incredible job on this side of keeping that up to date. Studentcoin is a project very early on right now, super early on, that you can look into and get into. They're building some incredible tools and they're trying to create a currency exchange concept for all the major universities and learning environments in the world. And so that's an interesting one to pay attention to. I teach here locally at a college called Belmont University, and so that's one that's worth paying attention to. How many of you have heard of the Flare network? If you haven't, I encourage you to go do some research on it. You'll find a lot of things. I can post some links on it, or we can even do a further deep dive. Nicole, I'm connected with the CEO of Flare, Hugo Fillion, and so he may be even a neat guy to get on here to talk about some of it, because Flare, I think, is doing what I'm really passionate about, and that is to see a bridge between all of these silos, because a lot of the crypto ecosystems, they created silos all over again, and now Flare, and then Cosmos, which created Osmosis, which is the slide I have on now. Flare and Osmosis and Cosmos, Alliance Block, and Definity are trying to bridge all of them together, if that makes sense. And I see 888, the New World that you've got in there. That's a great group. I agree to be connected to because of some of the various things that they stay that they do a good job. Carson Daly's with that group, and they do a good job of kind of staying up to date with some of the current things that are developing. But Studentcoin, great project. Flare is a bridge across all the all of the ecosystem. Um, Osmosis is one of the easiest, most user-friendly places to do liquidity pools and to stake. And so if you believe in Atom and Cosmos, COSMOS and ATOM Atom, if you believe in those particular products, and I do, I think they're really doing some unique things. They've created this Osmosis Exchange app that's incredibly user friendly. As you can see, you can do pools, you can stake. There's lots of opportunity there. Um, Alliance Block is an enterprise solution that's going to try to bridge a lot of the a lot of current investment markets with cryptocurrency, and so that's one worth paying attention to. Here's the Cosmos. Here's a visual for Cosmos. They're trying to bring together Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Maker, all of the various blockchains and bridge them together, if that makes sense. And then Definity is doing very similar work. All right. So I think I hope you feel we have had some good interaction here. And before we wrap up, any final questions or any final thoughts that you guys want to share or ask about or try to touch on? All right. So yeah, thank you, McCole, big time. I just saw that. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I don't mind sticking around. I can stick around in the chat, or I'll turn off the voice piece of it, and I can just stick around here in the chat for a little bit. If people want to ask questions, we can dialogue, and then I'll go into McCole, if it's okay. I'll go into some of the residency 1 and 2, and I think there was one other spot someone asked if I could drop the PDF there as well, and so if that's okay, I'll do that. All right. I've really enjoyed being with you guys, and I'll cut off the voice and I'll stick around in the chat. And then if there's other subjects that we've touched on today that you want to look at further in the future, let me know and let McCole know, and we can kind of rally again. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much.